Hey, Podcast Ninjas. I'm Anthony, host and CEO of Podcast Ninja. One of the most exciting things we offer podcasters is time. Our services allow you to just record your audio, send your raw file over, and we'll publish your content in just 3 days. Check out all the shows we work with and leave that technical stuff to us at podcastninja.net.
Podcast Ninja.
So you did audio engineering in school. How long have you been with Gary Vee? I don't know. You started doing his podcast. You do everything audio, or is it just his podcast? Or
everything audio for his brand. So that's podcast, Alexa skill. I do video work for him too. I've been working for him I started, April, end of April 2017. So it'll be a year and a couple months. I got linked up. My girlfriend actually works at the agency. She works on the client side. So she overheard that they were looking for an audio engineer for his brand team. Put me in touch with D-Rock, one of the video guys, and we just sort of took it from there.
Okay, so his show was already up at that point. Like he already had Ask Gary Vee and all that. It was already on iTunes and everything. Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
So he's been on iTunes. He's had technically a podcast for a couple of years now, but it was never taken seriously. It was always an afterthought. So it was always something that was like, oh, whenever they do an Ask Gary Vee episode, they'll strip the audio and just post it to Libsyn, or whenever they have a keynote available. It was very much an afterthought. And now, directly before I started, they made the decision to do it daily. Okay. And that's when they sort of realized they needed an audio engineer and somebody to actually spend the time and do that. And then that went further into actually making sure that, we had good equipment, that when he records original audio, that it's good.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big difference, because if you're I worked with someone one time where they were kind of just restripping the audio from some other type of content, and it's just repurposing content, which is good. But you see Gary, he's doing actual intros now for certain episodes, which is way more personal, right? I'm assuming that's got to be, it's a lot better, I guess. It's more specific to that anyone listening to podcasts as opposed to just repurposing the content,
Exactly. Yeah. We do repurpose content. His schedule is very, very busy. He's it's super tight, but at least we're trying to get something original within the content. So whether it's an intro or an outro, even if it's a keynote that we're repurposing, I'll make sure that it's at least normalized, or try to make sure that it's normalized so that it's not jumping all over the place. And we'll try to get an original intro and outro from him so that it's a little more personal. And
the gear you use is interesting. I remember I posted it one time in this podcast group I'm in, and then people were like, "Oh, it's a weird mix," I'm interested on how. I mean, I've looked up a bunch of things on your list already. I don't actually, if anyone's listening, they have no clue. I'll post the link that you have this kit that you found. I found on Google, and you kind of list that, and that's updated, I guess, as of I'm trying to think it's updated, right, to what he's using at this moment, right? Yeah. Okay.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So when I got here, they had a 2-channel M audio, simple interface. They had 2 MXL mics. And there was one podcast that he wanted to do that we realized, oh crap, we need more mics. So that was sort of the opportunity that we looked at it as all right, well, if we're going to invest in something, we might as well invest in something that's going to last and something that's going to sound professional, especially if, it's also, we're using this gear not only just for his brand, but also for a lot of other things within the agency, just kind of as needed. So we went ahead, and what I picked out at least was, it's a Focusrite 18i8 4-channel audio interface. I used Focusrite preamps back in school, so that was my kind of go-to, within the affordable range.
Okay.
But my real babies that I was really proud of were the Shure SM7Bs, which they've been my favorite vocal mic for years. So I said, screw it, we might as well. This is probably the way to go.
The SM7B is that's on my next hit list. But I mean, what? Because I see everyone taking that mic. I guess besides it being the same mic that Michael Jackson recorded Thriller on. Why'd you take that mic? I mean, besides how cool it is.
I used it a bunch in college for vocals and for some spoken word. Okay. So having the experience with it over a condenser mic, especially because of how much noise there is usually when we're recording something, going from. They're comparing condenser and dynamic, and specifically to the SM7B. It was a no-brainer. It was just it's a quiet mic. He's pretty good about keeping close to his face. It is a quiet mic, and the Focusrite isn't the most powerful preamp in the world. So usually when I record, the levels are jacked up and it stays pretty consistently within like green and yellow.
Yeah.
It barely peaks out unless there's like a big explosion of energy.
Are you using you're using any cloud lifter or anything, or no? Or I don't know if that's not called a cloud lifter, but that's like one option. You're like a boost. They like boost the gain a little bit. What do they call those? I can't remember.
I don't know. I know what you're talking.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Like there's a cloud lifter one. It boosts. It's like cleaner gain because you're using the Scarlett mixer, and even I'm using the what am I using? The SM58 mic, and it's like, you know, I still got to jack it up, and it's nowhere near what the 7B is. You know what I mean? So, but you're not even using that. You just boost it up in post.
I'll boost it up in post. When I record, the dials are pinned at 10.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and there's still room to boost from that. Yeah, I've considered looking into something that'll boost the signal like post the preamp, or rather pre the preamp. But it's just like for portability, it's just not practical. I also like keeping in mind, like I tried to keep in mind portability with this. Once in a while, he'll want to do a podcast in another state or another city.
Yeah.
And just stuff that's easier to travel with. We also do have a Zoom H6 on hand that I use a lot for just like run and gun type stuff. Like if he's giving one of those intro outros, and he's really, really fast. Yeah,
that's I remember seeing a video that came up. He was like quickly recording on this. I was like, oh, that's smart, and that's a nice portable recorder. And as like, so you're not using the pre-Sonos. I saw that in the list. The AR12, are you using that or no?
We haven't been. We got it with the anticipation of having to do a 6-person podcast, which it fell through. So it's there for security at this point. It's used elsewhere in the agency too, but we haven't actually gotten the chance. I haven't gotten the chance to play around with it as much as I'd like to.
No, it's cool because like I see some people getting that or some of the smaller versions, and I just feel like it's a bit too much. And like when I talk to other people, I mean, it's so funny when you see like videos of like people in the recording studio. I know it's different because you're not like, it's not a musician, it's a bit different, but like it's so funny when you see all those boards in the recording studios, like professional studios, and like no one ever uses them. You just see like, oh, they use like the same 2 levels every time. Yeah. And there's no need for it. Like
there's like 5 channels used out of the 48 channels. You're just like, oh man.
And anyone who's listened to the show, obviously, you know, Gary Vee, I mean, like it sounds great. Like it doesn't seem like you need a boost or like anything fancy. So I mean, I guess that's, you know, and you just have like simple XLR cables, right? Like nothing fancy on there.
Amazon Basics.
Yeah.
Cheapo.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. I didn't see the boom arm. Are you using a boom arm? Yeah, right? Like you don't remember the brand?
Yeah, I got it at B&H. I don't think they had it on Amazon. It's off the top of my head. It's an onstage, I think it's like onstage broadcast boom mic it's called. It's a cheapo stand with the XLR already run through it, which XLR already run through it, not the highest quality XLR in the world. Yeah. So occasionally I'll use just a table stand and run an XLR depending on like if we have enough of them at the time. Mm-hmm. I've run into a couple issues with interference with the built-in XLRs, so I'll use them sparingly.
Yeah, cause I mean, I guess like if you want to swap something out, like, you know, you have it pieced together like that. But I'm trying to think of the one, you know the Breakfast Club podcast?
Yeah, I do.
I just watched the newest interview they did with Lupe Fiasco, and they just switched it to, I was trying to pull it up right now, see what it looks like, but they just switched their boom arms to like gold or something. It looks so sick. It's probably so distracting, but it looks so cool, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it's over the top, but I'm just saying, you know.
Oh yeah, you know, when you do like a regular radio show and podcast, you might as well go over the top.
Yeah, it looks cool. And then you got the MacBook Pro, right? Like simple, like everything goes into that, I guess, right? So USB into that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. USB into that, and it's the same thing like we'll do for whenever we have an Ask Gary Vee show. We'll usually do a live stream along with the actual produced version afterward. It's the same thing. It's mics and the out on the conference room telephone run into the Focusrite. We have a Sony A7S Mark II that we set up and run HDMI out for the wide angle. We have usually 1 or 2 more in the room shooting the Gary and 1 shooting the guest, so we have a couple of angles to play with in post. But it's the A7S Mark II running through a Blackmagic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, into a Thunderbolt. All goes into a MacBook Pro. All streams out over Ethernet.
So you're recording with what? OBS, and you're flipping it
OBS
live, or you're going back and like edit, or you're flipping it as it's recording, like flipping
as
angles.
Recording.
Okay.
Yeah, or rather, as the show's actually going on, as the live stream's going on, it's a single angle. We're not. We'll add like graphics on top.
Okay.
but we only have one Blackmagic
Oh,
converter, so
okay,
we don't really do one camera at a time.
Oh, that's right. Because then it depends on how many input. Like, what do you have on? Do you have two outputs? Your MacBook Pro. I'm trying to think. What is it? It's HDMI 2. Is it Thunderbolt?
HDMI. Yeah, HDMI to Thunderbolt. There's only 2 Thunderbolt ports on there, and one of them is Ethernet.
Oh, okay.
Since there's no dedicated Ethernet port on the like whatever series MacBook Pro we have.
Okay, and it's not worth like buying like I've seen like, do they have like hubs or splitters or something, or no?
You can get like a solution would be to go in over to go Ethernet to USB instead, but Thunderbolt's a little bit faster, and we need like if we're trying to stream HD, we might as well have it be a stable connection.
Yeah.
Plus, then we'd have to run a cable from whichever other camera we want to use as a second angle all the way over to the computer setup is, and like it ends up being too clunky. So we like to be able to, we need to be able to get out fast because he usually has meetings right afterward.
Yeah. And I saw it like, cause I've checked out some of like the free apps for like live streaming, from like your phone or something like that. Cause I was trying to think of like, all right, if someone doesn't have like SLRs, I don't even know if that could even be possible. Like the wireless was so awful. So I was like, I would never do that. But I think you're kind of like, have you tried like point and shoot cameras, or it's always been SLRs or cell phones? Have you tried or anything? No, right?
We've done, we've used a GoPro before.
Okay.
We were actually trying to get away from having to use the SLRs just because it's not always the most reliable connection.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't have everything set up exactly right, you don't get an image. Everything has to be synced up the right way.
Mm-hmm.
GoPro worked great, except both times we did it, and we figured it out kind of after we did it. The SD card that we used was corrupted. So the GoPro decided to flash on screen like SD error a couple times. And we're like, well, shit. Like,
and that was
that
it.
didn't work. Yeah.
I hate
so we
that.
said, all right, well, we have a spare SLR. We might as well just use it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I was trying to see, like other people with their solutions to the SLR. So, all right, maybe in time. I mean,
yeah, I mean, frankly, like a high quality, a 1080p webcam will work fine. That's another option. Like,
okay,
you don't need to use like an expensive SLR camera to live stream. It can be a Logitech like little webcam that goes on the top of your monitor, or even using like the webcam in the MacBook. I think the newest version of the MacBook Pro is like it's either a 720 or 1080 camera anyway. So
okay, all right, that's not bad. As far as they don't have headphones, right? They don't use headphones when you record. Are you wearing headphones when you listen just to make sure the levels are good, or no?
I'm wearing headphones. Yeah, we tried doing it. Gary doesn't love to wear headphones when he like is doing a show. I have a headphone splitter, and we have a couple pairs of like Audio-Technica headphones, but they don't get used.
Yeah,
for that reason.
Yeah, I don't like the only thing I can't remember the model I have. I bought them like cheap when I was overseas. I think they're the MX20s or something like that, Audio-Technica. They get like uncomfortable after an hour, and then like, I don't know if it messes up your hair. If people need to like care about what you look like, I guess that could be an issue, but I don't know. Some people swear by the headphones, some people are like, whatever.
Yeah, I can see it being useful to make sure that whoever's talking is getting close to the mic, because they'll hear in their own ears like, oh no, I don't hear myself as well.
Right.
But other than that, if you're sitting in a room, you can hear everybody anyway.
What about like, I guess I don't want to say budget option, but I saw you had a budget link, and I guess is that the same mic you talked about before? I see you have also a budget option in your kit, because I think even me, like, or anyone, they're not going to automatically go to what we just talked about, especially for live streaming. Like, you don't need all that, right? Like, the SM7B, that's a dream mic. So, like, what would you recommend for someone to get started? Like, would you still recommend something, like, I see the condenser mic, XLR cable, pop filter, and then the Scarlett. I'm assuming you probably still stand by that Scarlett, which I love also, so.
AT2020 was also a big workhorse for me. I actually had one for a while. After college, I wanted to get myself a cheap setup. So I bought one of the 2020s because I had used it, and it rivaled more expensive mics that I'd used. I love it. It's $100. It's a pretty cheap a mic, but it's reliable. Pop filter, of course, if you're going to use a condenser microphone, especially, pop filter is always a good idea unless you want to hang it a special way. I guess the one thing I don't have in this list is a mic stand, but that kind of goes with that. I'll actually add that in here. And and the Focusrite, I've definitely loved their products. It's been a workhorse. I've thrown it, beat it the hell up, and it doesn't die.
It is. That's exactly what I thought, because I was looking at a few of them, the PreSonus, and I just like how small and like you could like literally punch this thing. I was like, wow, this thing is like beefy, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that
it's got some weight to it. It's nice.
That's true, but I was like, oh, I don't want it to break. I don't want it to break when I'm traveling. It's like such a pain, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would say that like an alternative is to go with a Zoom recorder. It's kind of, you have to look at it depending on if you want to have something that's kind of dedicated, you have to plug in, or if you want to have something that can be, a little more portable.
Yeah, and I guess that's all you would technically need. I mean, some people even go for like, the ATR 2100 if you're just doing like a solo show over the internet, you know what I mean? But I think, have you done like, he hasn't done, or have you done in person, like have you experienced like the live person reviews with two people with the Zoom recorder with just like the adapter on top, like not actually plugging mics in?
Yeah. You mean with the XY capsule in the top?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did one with a friend actually. It was the Meet the Creatives podcast it was a friend, a guy that I know runs it, and that's what we recorded our episode, the episode that I was on. I stuck it in the middle of the table. I did a little bit of post processing on it, but nothing major. But it was just a single mic sitting in the middle of the room. I love the Zoom is amazing. The Zoom is like a lifesaver.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so have you had any situations like where, I know you said you lost your audio or, when you had that error on the GoPro, but like microphones, like maybe time wasted, money wasted, like is there like what I'm trying to think of, like, man, is there anything that happened that was just awful, a huge mistake?
Yeah. So for the podcast that we bought the Personas board for, because a couple people dropped out, it ended up being a 4-person podcast. It's still on Gary's channel. It's the second episode of Brown Paper Bags with Damon Johns, and I can't recall the other two guest names. But I said, okay, I have all 4 mics set up. I'm just going to go in this. It'll be lightweight. It'll be easy. I'm just going to use, the Zoom H6 is a 4-channel recorder anyway. I'll just plug into that. 4 channels, all good. I can monitor in real time, adjust levels as needed. What ended up happening was one of the guest videographers clipped on a wireless lav to one of the XLRs that was running up to the mic. And for whatever reason, that completely corrupted the SD from that moment on. So from that moment on, all 4 channels when I imported them into Audition, they just sounded like clicking and like skipping and all these crazy, really weird artifacts. Everything up until then was fine, but for whatever reason, that was destroyed. So what I ended up having to do is like rip, and we weren't rolling a ton of camera audio either, because it was, we just assumed that the audio from this would be fine.
Yeah.
So I had to rip what little camera audio we did have. None of it was over a lav like it usually is. It was like onboard camera from the A7S, which isn't the best, like no shotgun, no nothing else. So I tried to make it work the best I could. It was definitely a little like punch in the face.
Yeah, I remember like my first like issue one time. I don't know if it was because I was overseas, but I plugged my laptop into the wall and I didn't have like an adapter. So like when I hit record, it recorded like this buzz. You ever hear this? It's like it literally buzzed throughout the whole entire thing.
Definitely has to be had to be the power.
So I from that on I was like, you know what? I'm never gonna plug my laptop in when I record. I'll always charge it up and just have it loose, because I actually had to go back and record. It was so awkward. I had to like go back and say what I said as I said it, because I couldn't get the guest again. It's just like so awkward, man.
Yeah, it's inevitable though. Like no matter what, there's going to be a hiccup, and it's just like you have to roll with the punches and make it work the best you can.
I was curious about like, because I want to wrap up, and I was kind of curious. I don't know much about the. I see you put the Adobe Creative Cloud on here. I know you use Pro Tools to edit. Like, can you talk a little bit about like the software part of it? A little bit without not too in depth, but just give like us an idea like what you use it for and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I actually use Adobe Audition. I was trained in Pro Tools. That's what I used all throughout college. But the rest of the company uses Adobe Creative Cloud, which is like Photoshop, Premiere, Adobe Audition, After Effects, all of Adobe's creative suite. I added everything in Adobe Audition. It's a simple, pretty lightweight DAW, but it's also powerful enough. Like it has, it has the standard Adobe plugins, compressor, EQ, noise gates, stuff like that. What I'll usually end up doing is it ends up being like depending on the project, a 3 or 4 track project. If we're doing a big live session, I'll just record directly to Audition. And that way I have all 4 tracks of all 4 guests already laid out. If it's something that I'm ripping from other content, I'll import it, usually, obviously, just the audio track, and we'll have an intro and outro, and then the content in between, and then also Gary's custom intro. depending on if we can get it or not.
Okay. And then you're using the Premiere and Photoshop because he does like these little clippets, those little snippets of like Facebook shareable promo type videos too, all that.
That's all either Premiere, After Effects, or Photoshop, depending on if it's like an animation type thing, a video type thing, or the photo. So we actually have a team of 17 that work on his personal brand. So we have animators, we have designers, we have videographers. I'm the only audio engineer, but it's a pretty it's cool. It's like, we are his client team as Budweiser has their own client team.
That's cool. That's interesting. Actually, you're the only guy, because I mean, I guess it can be a one-man team, but man, it'd be nice to kind of have somebody like, oh, hand me that, put that in. Okay, can you help me edit this out? Because, you're doing video and audio. I mean, it could take a while. I'm assuming I don't know how long it takes you do you edit the video much when you do that, or is it kind of loose?
Depends on the video. So for like the pod sessions, I don't know if you've seen the most recent format. I'm doing the audio for that. I'm doing all the video production for it too. So, it's really just cutting between cameras.
Okay.
Like we have 3 people filming. So once I get those raw files, I'll sync them all up and then cut between to make the actual video. The micro content, which is the Facebook and Instagram shareable stuff that you see. It depends on the project, really.
Yeah, true. That makes sense. I guess just to keep it like, if it's super standard, let's just call it the Ask Gary Vee, because I think most people listening are just going to really be doing like, one-to-one interview. Mm-hmm. What is it? What is it, like 2 hours? It could be 2 hours.
Oh, you mean like the length of the segments?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious.
It's funny. It ranges.
It really does. Okay.
Yeah, like it depends on on what content we have. I guess in the hopper. Like if he does a good rant, it will usually be like we'll publish like a 7 to 8 minute podcast. Otherwise, if it's one of the longer form things, like the pod sessions are like a keynote, and it can be anywhere from like an hour to 2. So there is a range. It's an interesting style that we kind of have going. It's not a traditional podcast by any means, but the idea is to break the system and see what we can do. Yeah.
Do you also, like, as you're listening to it, because you're listening to it back, do you pick out like do you do the picking out of like the quotes and any type of like, rants or whatever it may be as you're listening to it? So you stop and say, okay, that's good. I think that's a good thing to share, something like that. Are you doing that too?
Yeah. Yep. That's partially me. It's also partially the rest of the video team.
Okay.
But for like the video type projects that I'm working on, for most of the content that we're working on, like we all do a little bit of that. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like, I was thinking like, oh, I'm curious, like artwork or, show notes and stuff like that, which I know it's like pretty short for the most part. It's a team effort. Cool.
Yeah. Show notes I'll do, at least for things that are on the podcast. Show notes I'll do.
Okay.
But picking out like, this is a good little, 60-second clip that'll work great for Instagram.
Right.
So if it's somebody editing DailyVee, that's, it's their responsibility to look out for it. If I'm editing the pod sessions content, then that's my responsibility to look out for it. It kind of depends on who's put on what.
So, all right. So, man, last question to wrap up. Do you have like, are you 100% dedicated to Gary? Because I see you're like, I went to your site and I was like, oh, I wonder what else he's doing. Any other work? Do you work with other artists or stuff? Or can people actually reach out and try to work with you? Or
I'm always happy to like talk about a side project. Right now, I mean, I'm mostly focused on Gary. 95% of my time is focused on his brand and his stuff. I'll do little things for my own just personal content, like a little bit of video production. I don't actually have my own podcast at the moment because I spend so much time working on Gary's. It's kind of hard to balance that. But yeah, feel like reach out. Happy to chat always.
Yeah, cool, man. So wait, so what's the best? Facebook, or you're pretty reachable on Facebook? You have your own website. Maybe you want to throw that out there. You're on Twitter too.
I would actually say I have to update my website. Instagram's probably the best place to reach me.
Okay.
Shoot me a DM. I pretty much reply to all my DMs.
Cool, man.
It's just my name. It's at Seth Feingersh, SethFeingersh, because
cool.
It's hard to spell.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time, kind of run down. You answered a lot of my questions, and I think this is overall a good recap of the gear and stuff like that. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right. Thanks for listening to the 18th episode of Podcast Ninja. If you want to check out any of the links we talked about, especially his podcasting gear, all of it is posted on podcastninja.net/15. Talk to you soon.
Podcast Ninja.